Hi guys, this is Under the Radar Volume 2 by me, Robbie Williams. Under the Radar Volume 1 was such a big success that I had to follow it up, and here it is. I'm going to go through the track by track listing with you to explain what is in here and hope it jives with what is in your head. On the cover you can see me in I'm completely nude climbing up a tree, and we were looking for a photograph for artwork for Under the Radar Volume 1, and there was this piece of art that I really liked, and it was a New York, it's a picture of a manhole in New York. It was really beautiful, and I asked the artist whether I could use it for the cover of Under the Radar, and I think it would have cost like 30, maybe it was like 30 or 40 grand to use the picture for the artwork of the album. And I thought, well, A, we haven't got the budget, and B, I wouldn't want to pay that much anyway. So I then went to my computer to go and find pictures of me, because I'd seen Eric Clapton did an album a couple of years ago, and I think it was just a Polaroid of him, and that was the front cover of his album, and I thought maybe I could do something like that. I found a cheeky photograph from one of our holidays in Mustique, and that became the first album cover taken by Ida. I think we were playing Uno, and at the end of Uno, on that particular holiday, we had forfeits, and whoever lost that particular game of Uno had to jump into the pool naked, and that was what was happening for the shot of Under the Radar Volume 1. Now, in Under the Radar Volume 2, just following the theme, I just thought the arse is a good theme. It's cheeky, it's irreverent, it's funny. Don't ask me why I was up that tree naked. I just was. I just was. It was at our place in the country, and I can't remember why I was doing that, but it's a very high tree, and it was a very warm day, and I thought I might as well. I think I went for a walk. I went a walk into the woods with Ida. This is not a public place, this is a private place. Went in for a walk into the woods with Ida, and I just said, take a picture of me naked up this tree. I don't think there was any other thought other than take a picture of me naked up this tree, and then afterwards carry on and take a picture of me naked walking through the glade, and so she did. These are the only pictures of me with my bum out that I found. Maybe there's more pictures of me with my bum out. Anyway, Under the Radar Volume 2, more nakedness. I've read the YouTube comments. A lot of people like the pictures, but there's a lot of men out there that are like, no need to put the nakedness. I'm sorry that it pricks your sensibilities. Actually, not sorry. Happy that it pricks your sensibilities. Like your music, there's no need for the nakedness. It's just a bum. It's just a bum. Does it somehow represent the sensibility of the record, My Naked Arse? I suppose there's an awful lot of stuff that goes into the promotion of a big album. We'll call the Heavy Entertainment Show an A album. And it's so serious, and there's so much riding on it. And it's so scary, you know, to keep this whole thing going. That it's nice to have a bit of whimsy attached to a record that I'm doing. It's kind of, I would say it's the equivalent of, you know, when you wear a school uniform and then one day of the year you bring a pound in and you're allowed to wear whatever you want. This is the musical equivalent of that. It's Mufti Day. Not that we called it Mufti Day in Stoke, but I know that that's what it's called in other places. Maybe I should have called the compilations Mufti Day. Now, Under the Radar sounds better. It begins with Satellites, a song that I wrote during the period of the Heavy Entertainment Show with a very good friend of mine, Stuart Price. Stuart Price is genius, and he's a mega producer. The Killers, Madonna, Take That, Robbie Williams, etc., etc. And he lives just down the road from me in Los Angeles. And quite often I go down to see him. He's got a little studio in his house, and I spend 6 hours there, and then I'll go home and I went, it was a good day in the studio. Can you play me something? I'm like, well, we just talked. We just talked about stuff, and we didn't get anything done. This particular day, we did get something done. It's called Satellites, and it's about my wife. And there's a lyric in there that I've been trying to get into a lot of songs for a long time, even on the Progress album. I think there's a lyric on Satellites that goes, every single city lights, seeking sleeping satellites of hope. And it's on 3 songs, that lyric. It actually found an official home on Satellites. It's about my wife. She's Ivy League, but one of us. And I'm bueno para nada. An addict, such a hot mess. But she made me drop the knife, the knife, the knife. I think it's a bit U2 themed, if it's anything like anything. But it's about my wife. It's about the love that I have for her. From a nowhere garden in a nowhere city, you'll see our trail from here to Mars. And that's the way I quite often think about our love. So that's what Satellites is about. It's an ode to my wife. 9 to 5, Dolly Parton's song. My friend Piers and our friend Tim Metcalf, my Aussie mate, and his mate Piers. He introduced me to Piers, who's a big drum and bass head from the UK and also a top bloke. And I wanted to do something with him. And I think this is how it went. He played me this backing track and I really liked it. And out of nowhere, I just started singing 9 to 5 over it. I don't think we set out to make 9 to 5. I just think there was a backing track that I heard and started to hum the melody to 9 to 5 over. And I love the song. I'm a big Dolly Parton fan. And I know that many people will find it sacrilege to even attempt to cover such a legendary tune. But it's another part of the whimsical mufti day that is the Under the Radar series. You know, it's like there's no pressure on it. It's not me releasing it to the world and saying, you know, judge this. It's a collection of songs that didn't quite make the 8 albums. So I felt safe putting it there. This year, for the Heavy Entertainment Show tour, there was a section where I performed this version of 9 to 5. The dancers had a routine, there was outfits, and there was, what's the stuff that gets put up, computer generated on the back? What's that called on the back of the stage? The projections. There's projections, there was outfits, and there was choreography. But I didn't feel brave enough to sing it or be it fit. You know, it's like, oh, what are you doing? But maybe I'll get it out in the future. You tell me in the comment section whether I should or not do 9 to 5 live. Yeah, so it's Dolly Parton, I'm a big fan of, and it was me just jamming over a backing track, and it became this. I've had lots of fun with this track. It's just sat there for maybe 3 years on my computer, and it's never failed just to lift me up and give me a nice buzz. I hope it does the same for you. Miss Pepper. Somebody was asking me about Miss Pepper on Upfront on my website, and they wonder who Miss Pepper is. Well, the truth isn't a great story, but I'll tell you the truth. So when you are sat at a desk and you need to type in something to call the track, because the computer needs to know where to find it. You can write arbitrary stuff, especially as it's the start of the track and there's nothing been sung on it yet, so there's no words. You know, you could call it AAAAAXX, and that's what it goes in the computer as. You start doing arbitrary stuff. You start writing down arbitrary things because, you know, there's no end of ideas. This particular idea was called Pepper, and so it was Pepper for at least 2 years, until I had to put it on Under the Radar Volume 2, where Pepper wasn't going to suffice, and I just had the idea to call it Miss Pepper, to make you think that there was a someone. There isn't a someone. It's one of those songs that I don't have many of, where it's not autobiographical, there isn't a person. Hopefully it's just a good big tune, and I know by watching the views on YouTube that this is a particular favourite of you all, and maybe I should have put it on the Heavy Entertainment Show. That being said, maybe I didn't respond to it as much as the other tracks because Miss Pepper doesn't really exist. But if you want to be Miss Pepper, then be my guest. I suppose that Miss Pepper is a bit like Berliner Star, which is one of my B-sides from the early 2000s. It's a similar sort of vein. For me, if I am anybody in the song, I'm 17, I'm in Stoke-on-Trent, I'm going to pubs, I fancy somebody that's in the pub, and I maybe get infatuated by her, but I'm not brave enough to say it. And then eventually I am brave enough to say it, maybe after my 6th pint of Stella or whatever it was I was drinking back in the day. Yeah, it's yeah, I just fancy somebody madly in this song, and I want them to fancy me and then have sex with me. Bambi. Now, a big go-to for me when I'm writing, you sort of try and channel people. For example, when I wrote Better Man, big song of mine from back in the day, I said a prayer to John Lennon before I started writing it, and then Better Man appeared. So you can sort of write in the style of people or try to channel them. A big inspiration of mine, and somebody that I constantly find myself going back to because I think it completely encapsulates the spirit of the 90s, is Shaun Ryder. And A, The Happy Mondays, or B, Black Grape. And yeah, it's something that I keep going back to and keep going back to and keep going back to. In this song, Bambi, I'm trying to be Reverend Black Grape. I'm trying to be Shaun Ryder. And I think that, you know, if Shaun Ryder's Shaun Ryder, which he is, Bambi's kind of like Shaun Ryder on chamomile tea. But it's a song about me literally being at Stoke train station, literally wanting to be where the action is, literally wanting to get up to some mischief, and knowing that I'm about to get on a train that's going to be full of red stripe. I'm going to have my embassy #1. There's going to be 20 of them, maybe 40 of them if I've stocked up. And I'm going to get on a train and I'm going to be very, very naughty. And that was kind of the spirit of, it's the spirit of 94, 95, where I was going down to the big city, whichever big city that was, and I was going to try and find my tribe, and we were going to get lost together. And that's what Bambi's about. Eyes on the Highway. I always thought to myself, Grease is a big film and moment in my life. Grease with Olivia Newton-John, John Travolta, etc. It's probably my favourite movie. And at the end of it, I always get sad because it's the end of that particular movie that meant a lot to me. And off they fly in their car to live happily ever after, question mark. I always wonder what it would be like the next day after that moment when they fly with their car into the sky. What happens when you land? What happens to your friends? What happens to your future? What happened to their future? Where did they end up? So Bambi, Eyes on the Highway is a song that's basically not Grease 2 with Max what's his name in, because that sullied the Grease franchise for me. It's basically the real next day of what happens when Sandy and Danny land in their American beautiful car and get on with the rest of their lives. And I'm Danny. Speaking Tongues is about a lost weekend that I had in 93 or 94. I was hanging out with a group of lads from Warrington and surrounding areas, and they were a tribe that I'd attached myself to for that particular moment in my life, and it was full steam hedonism, literally like there was no tomorrow. As far as I was concerned, there wasn't, and why would I be concerned about tomorrow? It just didn't occur to me. It was a moment when we were recording an album with Take That, Nobody Else, I think it was. We had to go and sing some backing vocals at Gary's house, and I'd got 3 days off, and I took the opportunity on those 3 days off to go to Ibiza. And speaking in tongues is very much like Me and My Monkey, where I tell a story about what happened, and it's all true. Every word in that song happened. What I don't say is what happened at the end. So I met a reformed gangster. He came up to me in a swimming pool and he put his hand on my shoulder after I've been awake for like 24 hours, and he said, "God sent me to talk to you," and just that action broke me. I started to cry. I was like, "What do you want?" And this guy took me to his hotel room, got his Bible out, and started reading the Bible and then speaking in tongues. Hence the song title, Speaking in Tongues, because that's what happened. People wanted to beat me up while I was there, and I escaped. People wanted to beat the people up that were going to beat me up, and I thought that was a bad idea. There was a girl that followed me around. She did want to have sex with me, and I did try to take her back to a hotel, but the Spanish Catholic owner of said hotel wouldn't allow me in, and at one point I got on my knees and I prayed to him, "Please let me in," and he punched me. I made a promise to this gangster that I would not commit to another night on the white. He called it the devil's dandruff. So I didn't. I went out that evening, the last night of my stay in Ibiza, the 3 days, and I stayed off the cocaine. But I did get nobbled on a drink called a Poco Loco. Now, Poco Loco back then was £25, which was a lot of money. Still is these days, but even back then, 25 quid for a glass of drink was a lot of dough. Now, unbeknown to me, there was stuff in that drink. I'm guessing it was acid, I'm guessing it was mescaline, I'm guessing it was a few things. I'm not gonna lie, it was a really good drink. I got on the plane, having not been to sleep for at least 3 days. Got picked up at the airport. There was a connecting flight that left Ibiza, landed in Barcelona, then I had to get off that flight and get to Manchester, and I hadn't been asleep. And I arrived at Gary Barlow's house and knocked on the door, and he answered it and he said, "You all right, Rob?" And I said, "Gas, I've found God. And I collapsed. He put me to bed. I slept in Gary Barlow's bed for 2 whole days without waking up. Gaz didn't sleep in the same bed with me, but it's shows the strength of his character to allow me to sleep in his bed, his very own bed, for 2 days until I'd sobered up. And then I wandered downstairs and started singing some backing vocals with the lads. So that's what Speaking in Tongues about.